Welcome back to my podcast, Built to Lead Women in Manufactured Housing. I am so excited about the guest that we have on. She is wonderful. It is a family-owned business that has gone from generation to generation to generation. And she is going to fill us in on all of that and more. So you don't want to miss this episode. But before we get started, I just want to thank everybody for their continued support. The messages, the emails, the phone calls, all the love that you're giving me on this podcast. Thank you so much. We are going to come together and continue to empower women in this industry and to make a change in this industry. Let's get started. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm so excited to have you.
Good to be here.
We can start off if you want to just give us some history about you, some what got you into this industry, just some backstory about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So, my husband and I both graduated from college in 1991. That's when we were, going to have to find jobs.
Yes.
And at that point in time, my husband's stepfather was in the process of purchasing an Plattsburgh housing outlet and
Mhm.
creating a manufactured home community in the area. And so my husband decided, he didn't have anything else lined up. And so he thought he would do this until he found something different. And
Right.
here we are all these years later. So I kind of came into this industry by accident. My first degree was in fashion merchandising and design. I
Oh,
always
wow.
like live in New York City and be a fashion designer. And
Yes.
then my second degree is just in business and marketing. And it was about that time that my dad owned a family hardware store,
Hmm.
and I was an only child, and he really wanted me to work with him. And while I can't say that hardware was like my first love, my love for my family and my love for my dad,
Right.
and I decided that I would kind of oblige, and so I did that for a number of years, working alongside him. And then, unfortunately, tragically, my mom had passed away, and my dad kind of lost his joie de vivre of kind of working in the store.
Yeah.
And it was at a time that Lowe's and Walmart and everything else was coming into our area, and
Right.
he was going to have to reinvent himself in the industry, and he just didn't have it in him.
Yeah.
So luckily, at that point in time is when our business became available for sale. So Eric and I made the decision that I would partner with him here.
Hmm.
My dad had the opportunity to close the hardware store. Actually, he had an opportunity to sell the hardware store to another family.
Right.
And so he left that, and I came here. And since January 1st, 2000, this is
Wow.
where we've been.
And tell me, how is it working with your husband alongside with him? How is that going?
It goes well.
Yeah.
We joke around that his office is on one end of the building and mine is on the other, which is true.
Yes.
And what we are good at is just completely different. I'm very social and
Mhm.
engaging, and so I'm more like the sales part of it. I'm like the beginning of a relationship with a
Right.
customer,
Right.
and he is very calendar detail oriented numbers guy, and so he handles kind of the back end of the business,
Yeah.
and we let each other stay in our own lane. We ask advice from each other, we bounce ideas off of each other, but between what he does and what I do, I think it's kind of the recipe for our success.
Right.
And we also recognize that we would probably both be horrible at trying to do the other person's job.
Right.
Like, so we've been able to make it work. We've stayed married for 34 years and been in business together for 25.
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, yep.
That's amazing.
And we still
So,
kind of like each other, so it's good.
That is always good, right? So what you're saying is there's hope for Caesar and I, right? Although
Yep.
we've been doing this for 2 years and 30 something years, I can say what you said there.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yep. Yep. No, it's good. And
I love
kind
it.
of the shtick of our business is it's very family oriented. In fact, like I mean, our staff, many of them have been here the entire time with us. Our
Wow.
service manager actually graduated from high school with my husband and I, and
Wow.
like so now our son is in the business.
Hmm.
My best friend's son has joined our company, a boy that I've known since he was 3 years old.
Wow.
And like on our Facebook post on Sunday, we all had Easter brunch together.
Oh, I love
So
it.
I'm like, as if we don't see enough of each other at home.
Right.
Here we are all like on our free time, hanging out, even outside the office.
But I love it. And for us, it's the same, right? It's my husband, myself. We have two other staff members, and then our son, our oldest son, who does all our social media stuff for us, right?
Yeah,
But it just makes it that more special, I think, because like for me, I get to watch Jackson, who's our oldest son. I get to watch him do his craft, right? And develop his craft and see, just when he comes to us with ideas or, hey, I think we should try this or I think we should do this, and
yeah,
it's great to see him in a different way.
right.
And see him grow that way. So yeah, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. That is
Yep,
so
yep,
cool that y'all are all so
exciting.
close.
Yep.
So do you have any other children?
Yes. So I have so Jacob that works with us is 25.
Okay.
And our son Josh is a physicist who lives
Okay.
in Washington State. So
Wow.
we only get to see him a few times a year, but we're all going on an Alaska cruise together in July. So that'll be cool.
Oh, that'll be so exciting. How fun. That is really fun. So you have boys just like me.
Boys, yep.
Yep. I have three boys and they drive me insane.
But I think God knew I was meant to have sons because I am kind of a tomboy myself. I'm more like sports oriented
Yes.
and, kind of rough and tumble. Like we were always doing sports or going on hikes and things like that. We weren't going to be the family that was, I don't know, doing Barbies or something else.
Yes. I say that same thing all the time to people. I'm like, God knew that I could not handle the girl
Yeah.
because I don't myself, I don't know how to be like that prissy, sassy kind of person. I grew up playing sports. I also was an only child. And, I was always doing sport things with my dad, watching sports with him. Most of my best friends are males just because that's who I just fit with better, right? I could talk to them about sports.
No, and maybe that's how we've been able to survive in this industry.
Yeah.
Um, because again, like a lot of the sports that I play, even now, I find that I'm a pretty competitive person. So
Yes.
like I like playing like, and I know it's silly, like but I'm a huge pickleball player these days.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I mostly play with guys
Yeah.
because that's the level of competition that I'm looking for.
Right.
So I feel the same way.
Yes. Yes. It was the same with me growing up. I played golf all my life. I started playing golf when I was 5 or 6. And my dad used to tell me, you have to learn to play golf for two reasons. And I said, okay. And he said, one, because you're a female, so you're going to stand out because it's always males. And second, because most business deals are always done on the golf course. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And you know what? It was true. And when I was growing up playing, there was not a lot of girls that played. So I was always playing with the boys, and I was always playing, from the blue tees or the black tees, wherever the boys played. So when I would play in a tournament with girls and I would play from the red tees, I was already way up and just I was already in an advantage than a lot of girls
Yeah.
that played, right? So, yeah, I can totally understand that. I totally relate to that. And yeah, God knew what he was doing, giving me three boys.
Yep. I agree.
So, you've been in this career or in this industry a long time,
Yes.
right? And it wasn't your first passion, but you're here and you're very successful at what you guys do. Tell me, was there a certain point in your life that you said, okay, this is going to be my passion now. This is the industry I want. This is the career I want. And if there was a moment, Did your father help you see that moment? Your husband? Did you realize it on your own?
That's a great question because I mean, it all sort of just happened. But I've always been a big believer in like whatever you're doing, just do it to the nth degree and put
Absolutely.
everything that you have into whatever you're doing.
Right.
And even though I might not have chosen this, like if I, my girlfriend always says, if you were queen of the world, what would you do? It's been a really good industry for us though,
Right.
and I've been able to still get out all of my creativity. I do
Yes.
like all of our marketing campaigns, all of our social media. I help customers design their houses. I help them pick their colors. I
Right.
stage all of our models. So I still get to do that whole creative side.
Right.
And I guess from, growing up in a hardware store, I knew some of like the
Oh,
technical
true.
part of building.
Yeah.
And ironically, my mom taught interior design at our local
Oh,
college.
wow.
So between my parents, like one of their hobbies was finding dilapidated old homes and
Hmm.
then like moving in and fixing them up, and then we'd move on to the next one. So I grew up kind of, helping my parents make decisions on how to redesign houses and how to fix them
Right.
up. And just, but, a hardware background
Hmm.
has been able to give me a little bit of insight onto like the technical side of our
Right.
industry. And then just the creative side, I guess, came through the whole idea of fashion and interior design and that kind of thing.
So you had the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is so cool. So, there's a lot of people that there's a huge stigma on our industry, right? That talk really bad about our industry or even the families that live in our industry.
Yep.
What would you tell your younger self or somebody, a young adult looking for a career and thinking about coming in our industry? What advice would you give them?
Well, we actually just had this happen because our newest colleague, Alec, didn't know anything. I mean, his entire life we had been in this business,
Right.
and he would come up here with his mom occasionally. We used to do a big Halloween festival, so
Hmm.
he'd be in and out of here. Um, but when he was trying to make a decision to get into a different industry, he had been in banking before that, and it just wasn't jiving.
Right.
So we had an opportunity because we had an older associate who had decided to retire,
Hmm.
and we knew we needed another building consultant. There was just
Right.
too much work for just Jacob and I to handle. So we encouraged him to try,
Hmm.
and it was fun for me because a lot of the reps that are working for the manufacturers are also young men under 30 years old.
Hmm.
So I was like, hey, this is not a path of last resistance. This is not
Right.
something that only can do if you can't find something else. Like this could provide you with an incredible life.
Yes.
It's a good work-life balance. I mean, we work hard, but we have
Right.
time for, so everybody in my office except for me are big golfers. So I mean, they get out of here, they go directly to the golf course most days.
Right.
Um, and it's a very rewarding job, and we get to help people with one of the most important decisions that they will ever make.
Yes.
And it's a very intimate position to be in, that this is where they're going to host family gatherings and where their family is going to grow, and
Yes.
it's where they live.
Right.
And it is a big responsibility, but it is also a genuine joy to help people get to do this.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. It is so I know for a long time, and when I first met Caesar, I've said this 100 times, but I was embarrassed that he sold mobile homes, right? It
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, when people would say, "So what does he do?" I'm like, he does real estate. That's what we do. We do real estate."
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even understand what it is. And
Yeah,
they'll go,
they
oh,
don't.
trailers? Like, oh, yeah.
Yes.
Um, and more than just the homes themselves, because they're incredible. They're
Yes,
well
they
built.
are.
I talked to a customer who had moved into his house a few years ago, and he had a question about something, and he was telling me that in his 2,100 square foot house, which is big for us, like our average house is more like 15, 1,600 square feet.
Uh-huh.
But he had a big family, big farm, and his house is 2,100 square feet. And in the 5 years that he's been there, he's never used more than one tank of fuel any winter.
Wow.
And he was
Wow.
saying how that was a huge blessing for them because they're farmers. They had to move out of their old farmhouse because it was just falling down around them.
Mm.
And it has been so much more energy efficient. And so it's not the construction. It's more, again, it's just misconceptions, not only about the quality of home that we build, but more than that is I take great offense to people who think that our customers are not as good as other people.
Oh,
And
yes.
the whole, trailer trash mentality
Yes.
and the jokes about, you know, you name it, I've heard it.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
know that that is not the truth. It
That's
is,
right.
my customers have jobs.
Yes.
They contribute to society. They
Yes.
are not drug dealers,
Right.
and um it's hurtful for me to hear the stigma more so about the quality of person
Right.
who would live in a manufactured home versus the home itself,
I
because
agree.
I know it to be very different.
Yes. I agree with you. It is it's something now that hurts my heart when people are like, "Oh, that trailer trash, that this and that."
Yes.
Like, excuse me? Have
Yeah.
you met those families? They work just as hard as you do. They have kids. Their children are wanting places to call a home. They want a place to celebrate their birthdays. They want a front yard. Oh yes, I have yes, I'm a huge advocate now for manufactured homes for our industry. And I
Yeah.
really think that the people that say the things they do, it's because they're not educated.
Hmm.
Right. So really the joke is on them because they're the ones that are not educated about our industry and what our industry does and what we provide and who we provide it to.
Exactly.
And when they make the comments about, oh, it's, it's trashy people, well, you know what, or it's, gangsters like you said, or this and that, well, you know what, those people are everywhere.
Yeah.
They're in site built homes as well. It's not
Yeah.
just, not because they live in a manufactured home does that mean they're this or that. I mean, that's
Yep.
everywhere. So yeah, I take offense to it as well. I totally understand that.
But I do
So
think it's getting better. Um,
yes.
and the interesting thing too is post COVID, prices just got so expensive.
Right.
And we offer both manufactured and modular homes.
Oh, awesome.
And
Yeah.
so people will still to this day come in thinking, using air quotes, they have to have a modular.
Right.
And I will build them whatever they want,
Yes.
but I will ask them to keep an open mind. While you're here, look through all of our models.
Right.
And 90% of our models are manufactured homes. Some of them are very small, very modest,
Right.
just the basics. And some of them have every amenity you can imagine.
Right.
And walking into that house with someone and them going, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I told you. So sometimes not, if
Right.
somebody has like something very specific in mind and assuming that
Right.
they have the budget to support it,
That's right.
great. But it's it is not the path of only resort for a lot of people. We build a lot of houses for people. Sometimes they're primary residents, sometimes it's a
Right.
second home,
Right.
but they could do something very different. And they do their research and they think long and hard about it, and then they decide that this makes sense for them.
Right. Right. I love it. I love it. So, speaking of our industry and, educating and advocating for people in our industry, what
what are some changes you would like to see brought to our industry?
Um, that's a great question. I don't know that I have a great answer for that.
Okay.
Because what I think and from a manufacturer standpoint are probably pretty different.
Okay.
Uh, I have found we've made great strides on the interiors of the houses. There's not a
Right.
single thing that I would change on the inside.
Okay.
The outside, again, the way our industry thrives is, somewhat rectangular shapes, some very basic things because the
Mhm.
house sections have to be transported over the
Right.
highway.
Right.
I will say that at the Louisville show this year, I really felt that all of the manufacturers that were there were trying to come up with some pretty interesting exteriors because I think that's been one of the bigger issues is people feeling like the outside looked kind of ordinary and they wanted
Right.
something that had a little more pizzazz. So I think that that's something that is being attempted.
Mm-hmm.
But post COVID, the manufacturers have reverted back to a lot of production driven ideas. We
Right.
want to build the same thing over and over and over. And I push back on that a little bit because, if a customer wants, I don't know, a sliding glass door off their dining room, why would we not want to do that? They're
Right.
building a blank slate. Let's
Right.
give them everything that they need from the get go so they don't have to, modify that house later or, sacrifice something that was really important to them.
Yeah.
I am seeing resistance to that. Some manufacturers are very hesitant to make changes to designs. We're trying to understand it from their perspective of we know you want to stay efficient to help keep costs down. It also
Right.
helps eliminate potential mistakes and that kind of thing.
Right.
But
Right.
I want to, it's my job, I think, to advocate for our customer, and I will try as
Absolutely.
hard as I can to give them the house that they've asked for. And sometimes that's met with resistance.
Yeah. So, how do you think, as women in the industry, how do you think we can better support each other and promote each other in this industry? What are some things that we can do?
I think just be there for each other. It's a pretty small club.
It is.
And, the few women that I do know, we all sort of feel the same way is that it's a very male, I mean, maybe every business is, but it's a very male dominated business. It's still
Right.
very much a good old boys club.
Yes. I
And
say that all the time. Say that all
we,
the time, Michelle. This is the good
yeah,
old boys club.
and the message that we deliver is not received the same way as if one of our male counterparts said the exact same thing.
I agree.
And we can be perceived as overbearing or
Yes.
bitchy, for lack of a better term.
Yes. Yes.
And I maybe so, but at the same time, if it's something that we're asking for that will help us be better business people in our own business, help again advocating for our customers. I care even deeply about our manufacturing partners. I want them to
Right.
be the best they can be.
Right.
And, I'm willing to voice my opinions to push that envelope to further this industry.
Yes.
And sometimes that message is met with a lot of pushback.
Push back. Yep.
And I think some of that is just because we're women,
We're
unfortunately.
women. Yeah.
That it's um we're more emotional, we're more um I'll leave it at that.
Uh, I agree with you. I have met a lot of people in this industry, right, doing what I'm doing and working along Caesar. And it's funny because sometimes I'm standing there looking around and I'm like, I'm the only woman in this circle. I'm the only woman in this circle. And when I try to speak, a lot of times I'm kind of like
Yeah.
the noise in the background, you know? And I truly feel empowered when I'm around other women, right?
Mhm.
When I'm here talking to you, we just finished doing a training and it was mostly women. And we were just so excited to be together and share our thoughts and talk about things. And, they feel the same way. They're like, we need to continue to support each other
Yeah.
and not give those ugly looks, at each other, or, oh, she's doing so good. She sold 5 houses this month. Ugh. We need to support each other and engage with each other. So that's why I wanted to start this podcast. I wanted to start this podcast. I wanted to start a circle of women that come together and just encourage each other and empower each other, because we have so much to offer. And I feel like sometimes we don't put ourselves out there because we feel like we're going to be shut down before we even get to say what we want. So I think people like you, Michelle, that have been in the industry for a long time, we have a lot to learn from you, a lot to learn from the women that have been in this industry, and to hear your voices and hear what you have to say. So I hope that this podcast and us creating and forming this friendship and these bonds with each other, that we will do that.
Mhm.
Because I think this industry needs us and it needs our voice,
Right. Because
So,
I think a woman's perspective too is, again, home buying is a very emotional
yeah,
process.
it is.
And so I think we are better listeners. I think we
Right.
are, provide more empathy.
Yes.
Um, and I think I mean, we have to know about the industry. We have to know the nuts and bolts of it too. But I think that we have a lot to offer from like
Absolutely.
a softer place, from a more maternal side that, um, I think provides customers a more welcoming experience a lot of
Yeah,
times.
I agree. I agree. And I feel like women that come in to buy homes want to deal with women,
Hmm.
right? I feel like there's already that connection when somebody walks in, they're like, oh, good, it's a woman I'm going to deal with. She'll understand the kind of house I'm looking for, or why I want this in my kitchen, or why I want my master bedroom to look a certain way, or what I'm wanting for my children. So I think it's very important. Yes, I agree. So, on a whole different topic, do you read? Are you a reader?
Yes.
What is the last book or the current book that you're reading?
Um,
Or your favorite book? Your
yeah, I
favorite
don't,
book.
I can't name, the names of the books right now for some reason, but I usually have two books going depending on the mood
Okay.
that I have the day. And
Wow.
I haven't started it yet, but on my night table is a Kristen Hanna book.
Okay.
So I've been reading a lot of her. And I usually have something, more fictional based. And
Right.
then I have been really, and it sounds completely bizarre, but I've been really into historical fiction books.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of those are kind of cringy topics, like about the Holocaust and like all
Right.
of these kind of,
Right.
like the Tattooist of Auschwitz and like those
Mhm.
kind of books. And I remember a couple of years ago, my husband and I were on a vacation in Mexico, and it was like a Grateful Dead festival. And I'm out on our little deck, and these little deadheads come up and they're starting to talk to me like, "Hey, what are you reading?" And I'm like, "A book on the Holocaust." And they're like, "Okay."
All right.
We laughed. So, um, I think I think that there's a lot to be learned from history, and even though these
Oh,
books
sure.
not completely fact based, that in terms of just the human experience and how we treat each other,
Yeah.
a lot could be learned from those events so that we don't repeat them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm reading a book right now. It's called The Let Them Theory. I don't know if you're familiar with Mel Robbins.
Started hearing about it.
Yes, she is a big name in our household right now. Well, especially for me, but the let them theory. You'll have to. I won't spoil it for you. I'll
Yeah,
let
yeah,
you hear her podcast and read that book. It's amazing. It's a great book to help women empower themselves,
yes,
right, and to give us a place. So yeah, so check that book out. I think you'll.
I
I think
will.
you'll like it. We'll have to talk about it next time.
Yeah, and kind of on that same vein, um, it is one of the things that you had asked, like in our little pre-meeting,
Hmm.
was, how do you handle, criticism and those kind of
Yeah.
things? And I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
But I'm probably in the best spot that I've ever been, knowing that houses are not perfect and they're made
Right.
with imperfect materials
Right.
by imperfect people.
Hmm.
But if I have done everything that I have in my power to give them the best house that I can, and if there was a hiccup along the way, that I've done everything I can think of to make that situation right,
Right.
I am now more at peace with that than ever.
Yeah.
And because I take so many things so personally,
Hmm.
and I think that's that same philosophy is people are going to some extent think what they're going to think.
That's right.
And if you have the peace of mind in your own heart of knowing that you did not do anything of malicious intent and
Right.
that you have gone into their project with the best of intentions,
Right.
that you have to be okay with that.
Right. Right. We discussed that in our training last week that as much as we want to, we are not going to be able to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's going to be our customer. We're not going to be able to put everybody in a home, right? But we can say, okay, give me 6 months and work on your credit, or get some more money saved and come back and I'll be happy to help you. but
Yes.
it but it is difficult even for me to say, wait, what, let me try one more thing, let me do this one more time, let me, but I'm like you, I'm learning to say, okay, you know what, sometimes it's not their time, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to work at this time, but come back and I'll do everything I can to help you in 6 more months or 8 months, whatever they need. But yeah, and I think that is a woman thing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we have our emotions and we want to be able to help everybody we can, right? Especially when you see a mom with 3 kids or 2 kids, you want to help them get into a home,
Absolutely.
So
And our company, though, like, our philosophy is to be very transparent
right,
and give people the information that they need. They're going to figure it out at some point in time.
right, right,
And we know that we have lost business over the years when we have told people either how long it's going to take
right,
or what it's really going to cost.
right.
And we have also realized that not everybody wants to know that.
Yeah.
And they, even if in their heart of hearts they know, boy, this other company is telling me this, but that seems too good to be true,
Right,
they want it to be that so badly that sometimes they choose to do that, and
right.
then unfortunately
It,
are blindsided.
yeah,
And that's been hard for us to accept.
right.
But again, that's the thing is, I'm not going to tell somebody something just because that's what they want to hear.
That's right. That's right.
And the cards will fall where they fall.
That's right.
And hopefully, we earn more people's business than not,
Hmm.
even if those first couple of conversations might be different than what they had hoped that they were going to hear. I
Right.
mean, it's only April and we're already booking fall projects. They wanted to be in the summer, like those kind of things.
Hmm.
But if the reality is that we can't take on more business because we have a certain number of staff in all of those things,
Right.
it's not going to be in anybody's best interest for us to pretend that we can
Right.
and then not follow through on it.
That's right. That's right.
And to some extent, if a company is telling you in April that you can have a house this summer, either you have to worry why they're not busy,
Yeah.
why nobody else is choosing to do business with them, or
Right.
they're not telling the
The
truth
truth.
on them.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's so those are some things that over the years, like, I used to get so upset about.
Hmm.
And I can't say that it doesn't frustrate me sometimes, but if we've done what we could and we've done our best to explain and communicate,
Right.
then I just have to let it go.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So you mentioned that, this industry is high stress, right? There can be lots of negativity. There can be lots of disappointments and letdowns. Um, how do you handle that? How do you handle all the stress? How do you go home and turn the job off, especially when your husband is there with you, right? How do y'all, is it always home and work, 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 or do y'all just shut it off and say no more?
Um, more, I have a hard time delineating things. We probably take more work home than
Hmm.
we should.
Yeah.
And my husband and I have a little bit of a different philosophy on, because we're open Saturdays.
Okay.
I take Thursdays off.
Hmm.
And while I might answer some emails, I might make some phone calls, I largely do not come into the office on Thursdays.
Okay.
My husband, with him, he has to touch the business every day,
Okay.
but he might on any given day go play golf.
Hmm.
So he gets the guys going in the morning.
Right.
He takes a little break in the middle of the day, and then he comes back at the end of the day and figures out what was done, what needs to be done for
Right. Right. Right.
that. Excuse me. But so we probably don't get away from the office as much as we could. It's also
Right.
hard for us to take a lot of vacations together.
Yeah.
We are going to go on an Alaskan cruise, as I mentioned earlier. It takes a little bit of an act of Congress because that also takes Jacob with us.
Yeah.
And if
Oh,
we're
yeah.
business, so like we have to be very sensitive about how often we do that and those kind of things and when to do
Right.
it. So it's like
Right.
4th of July week. So there's not a lot going on that week
Right.
anyway. It's a holiday. Um, and then he usually takes a golf trip with his guy friends. I
Hmm.
usually take my own vacations with my girlfriends. So we have some time to decompress, but I guess there's no such thing as perfect. We just have kind of figured out what works for us. But yeah, and going back to like when my kids were younger and those kind of things, it took me a very long time to figure out that I deserved to have time for myself. And
Yes.
working a lot of hours, I felt that every minute off hours needed to be spent with my children,
Yes.
and ended up, sometimes being frustrated and resentful of not having any time for me.
Right.
And nobody was telling me that I couldn't do it. I was just not allowing myself to do it.
Right.
I
Right.
realized, probably kind of too late, but that even if I just got a little time away to go to the gym or to do something for myself,
Hmm.
I was happier. And then it made everybody else around
Every,
me happier too.
yeah, I struggle with the same thing. And Caesar and I have this conversation all the time because it's always go, go, go with the three kids, right? Always go, 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 go. And then with the business. And then when he travels, right? And if I don't go, then I'm left, handling all of them and handling all the stuff at home. And
Yeah.
he's like, why are you so angry? What's wrong with you? And it's just, I finally realized that I have to step away. And whatever that looks like for me, whether it's, committing myself to the gym every morning, because that would be my thing. I would have to take my 2 hours at the gym, sit in the sauna, talk to the girls that are there, work out. And then when I'd leave there, I feel like I could do a million things for
Yes.
the rest of the day. Right. But I think as women, it's hard for us. We think that we have to take everything on and we have to accomplish everything and we have to be the best at everything. But I am learning as I get older that I have to find that time for myself.
Right. And
You know?
and I mean your physical health, your mental health, I mean all of those things will
Yes.
translate, and you probably can then get everything that you needed to get done in shorter hours if you are kind of refreshed and
Yes.
focused. And but
Yes.
yeah, I think it's just us needing to give ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah. And it's hard because I feel guilty.
Yeah.
Even when I would go to the gym, I'm there like, oh my gosh, I could be doing this, 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 and this. I got to go home. I got to wash clothes. And I'm like, no, stop, stop. So I did. I put my headphones on and I would like, this is about me right now.
Yeah.
If they need me, it has to be an emergency, but I need my time, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I totally understand. And I hope that we can encourage other women to take their time for themselves, right? So that they can be their even better self when they come back from taking care of
Yep.
themselves.
Yep.
So, is there any other advice or a quote or a saying that you live by that you want to share before we wrap it all up?
The only other thing, again, from like our pre-meeting, one of the things is you would ask me if I had any mentors in this industry.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the sad reality is no, I don't. But
Wow.
I did have a very early mentor who was one of my college professors. And it's a story I tell all the time, but I think it's one that could be told all the time. And so Dr. Nancy Church was one of my marketing professors, and she was huge on group projects. And so there would often be, you know, six-ish people in, because marketing, I took a bunch of classes from her. And so finally
Right.
after third class and all these group projects, and with every group project, it was always that two people did all the work
Of course.
and six people got the same grade. And so I finally made an appointment and I marched into her office hours and I was going to explain how what she was doing was completely unfair and how she needed to change the way she did it. And, you know, I'm 20.
Right.
And she looked at me and she said, "Get used to it." And I
Wow.
stopped in my tracks and I left there so mad.
Hmm.
Like, this is the most unfair thing I have ever heard of. And then her voice has been in my head the rest of my life.
Wow. What an impact.
Because it was, you know, my kids went to a school that their grade school had 400 kids.
Hmm.
So maybe not every kid had two parents, but if there's 400 kids, there's 600 parents.
Right.
And there
Right.
were 10 parents that put together all of the fun, you know, family fun night and all the extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Kind of, and, you know, and I could have said, well, you know what? All these other parents aren't doing it. I'm not going to do it either.
Mm. Right.
But it was important to me. It was good for
Yes.
my children. It was good for
Yes.
those other kids. And so I realized, okay, even if nobody else is doing it, if it's important to me and I think that there's a benefit to my efforts,
Right.
I'm going to do it regardless of anything else.
Hmm.
And through all of my activities on, you know, different boards locally, different volunteer activities and things like
Right.
that, there's people that are there just for the social aspect, and then there's
Yes.
the doers.
That's right.
And so it's one of those things that regardless of what anybody else is doing, I learned through her hard love of, hey, if it's going to have your name on it, you need to, and if it's important to you, then regardless of what anybody else is doing, do whatever you're
Right.
doing to the best of your absolute ability.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
So
I
she
mean,
would
and
probably be happy to hear me all these years later, something years later saying, "Oh my God." But, you know, and in hindsight, like, I'm sure that's why she was doing it was, you know, you did need to learn in business how to work with other people
yeah.
and the ebb and flow and how all of that was going to translate. And
Right.
there are people who are just going to take, and then there's givers. Um, that's life.
Yeah. It is. It is. And you're right. And that is so beautiful. And that is beautifully said. We see it all the time in everything we do, right?
Yeah,
I'm a member of the PTA board. I sit on several boards for my schools, for my kids' schools.
yeah,
And it's the same thing. We joke all the time. Okay, yeah, there's 15 of us, but we know only four are going to be doing everything, you know,
yeah.
and we call them seat warmers. We're like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're on the board, but they're just seat warmers because they don't show up for anything. They just show up at the events and like, hi, hi, you know, and you just keep smiling. You just know it's going to happen. And
Yep,
yeah, that's life. I mean, it
it
is,
is.
right? It
We
is.
had like the Adirondack Builders Association is a group. It's some, you know, some are home builders, but it could be, you know, a siding company, a roofing company, anybody that's
Right.
kind of like remotely involved. And when I was on that board, there was this one older man that just would say, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I'm like, who? Because it's going to be me.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
it might have been a good idea, but he was never going to help. But
Right.
we have to do this.
Well, and it's still true to this day, right? You still meet those people. Yep, that is hilarious. That is great. Well, Michelle, I want to thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do in our industry, and I look forward to connecting with you even more and empowering our women in this industry
Absolutely.
and creating the change that our industry needs.
Yep. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.